Hey guys, what's up? So, this was a video I wasn't expecting to make, but I figured it would be kind of fun because it's been a very long time since I've done, in my opinion, an old school back and forth response video sort of thing. Like, I haven't done this since the really old days of YouTube. You know, back when you actually had, like, you could actually link your response video underneath the video that you were responding to and so forth, where there was actual communication going on between YouTubers because it was supposed to be a shared community. You know, before everything got all corporate. Let me not rant. Alright, so let me get on with this. And don't mind Mo in the background. She's relevant, as you will soon see later on. She's just taking a break because we actually did a lot of work for this video. This is a response to my last video on nunchucks, which was pretty much my opinion on these things. Yes. And I must state once again that that was pretty much my personal opinion. It wasn't it wasn't a video on the practical uses of the nunchucks. It wasn't a video on the historical use of it, or even a objective an objective evaluation of how good these things were. It was more my personal opinion on what I thought of them as weapons. And to sum it all up, I personally think that these are pretty good specialized weapons in the right hands. But me personally, if I wanted to pick something up as a personal weapon, I would rather use something like a stick, because I personally think that that is a little bit more, they're a bit more versatile and easier to use. These take some dedication and skill, and there's some limitations to them, I personally think. And I find these to, and I'm going to get into this further, I find these to be more offensively set than defensively set. Now, somebody else had seen my video, and while they liked the video and they thought it was pretty good, they liked what I had to say in it overall, they didn't agree with some of the things that I put in. They go by the name the New Fat Dragon, and if you're watching this, hey, what's up? So they were kind enough to make a response to my video, basically showcasing their particular objections to what I said, specifically the fact that you could block with chucks, because I said that it's kind of hard to block with them. It's like, since they're kind of like a flail, like how exactly would you effectively block with these? And he went out of his way to show some actual traditional blocks with this weapon, as well as certain strikes and movements that you can do with them in a stick-like fashion, which they are traditional movements, and they were clearly shown. And he said that, yeah, you actually could, these are more versatile than you think. And I think he has a point. So if I think he has a point, and I agree that these are traditional movements, why am I making a response? Because I have a few... I got a few niggles with some of the blocks and movements that are done. Now, keep in mind, I know what it's like for someone like me who doesn't consider himself an expert to then look at movements done in a traditional Japanese martial art and go, I got problems with that. I know what that makes me look like. So I must make this caveat. I have to state that this is not me saying that these things suck. This is not me saying that the movements shown don't work. What I'm saying is, what I am going to be saying is, the movements shown do two things that I think show the problem overall with nunchucks. Namely that, one, how are these things used most effectively? Like, what are these things best suited for? And something of that is, if there are certain movements that are most suited for this, what does that say about the other movements that are being done for it? And two, are the movements that are being done with this effective or not in a practical situation? Now, before I get to the nitty-gritty, and that's actually what made me what made this video take a while. Like, instead of just quickly me throwing out a quick response where I'm just talking to the camera, me and Mo back there actually took some time to demonstrate some of the blocks and movements. And I'm going to get into that in a bit. But I want to talk about these a little bit more first. Let's take a really good look at these things. What they are basically two sticks tied together by either cord or chain. Now, when one is designing a weapon, there usually is a certain intent to how it's going to be used. Like there's a certain set of movements in mind. There's certain motions in mind when one is designing a weapon. Like how exactly is it going to be intended to be used, both offensively and defensively, right? Right. So, like a sword. You got a handle on one end, you got a blade on the other end. The object is to use the blade to do damage to the person in front of you. And since it's basically, you know, a stick, but with a sharp part, you're going to be using the sharp parts to do the damage, and you can basically move it similar to a stick, but with more cutting motions and things like that. A mace is basically going to be used in a crushing manner, right? A bow and arrows is basically designed so that you can, you know, send projectiles with the string towards your target. You guys get my drift. So with the design of this, what exactly is this for? What is its strong point? What is this thing made to be? Well, you would think that with the length of chain in this thing's most suited purpose, its primary use is as a flail. Right? Otherwise, what's the point of having the rope and string there? It's for that flailing power. You have that there to generate power through this. Good old spin. Like this is where the power comes from. And there's a lot of devastating power with that. That's why flail were created and used in many different cultures, in different aspects, you know, of different medieval periods and different cultures around the world. Right? So, when one then uses this like a stick, you have to ask yourself, why am I using this purely like a stick, or two sticks in this case, and foregoing the cord, the rope, the chain? Why am I foregoing this if this is supposed to be the selling point? This is supposed to be its strong suit, right? If I'm then going to be using it like this, which I'm not saying you can't, there's some good reasons to use it this way. You might find yourself in a situation where you have to use it in this way. And to be fair, holding it like this, suddenly you find you got a lot more options. You really attack and defend at the same time. It's easy to block and strike and all that type of stuff. And then you can use this to, like, maybe if you're quick enough, quickly, like, which I gotta get into that as well. Trying to catch a blow, and then, you know, you can come in and, like, maybe trap the arm, bang the elbows this way, hit the head. You can do things with this, right? So you're not necessarily foregoing the rope that way, but that in itself, you know, opens up a whole can of worms, because now you're kind of handcuffing yourself if you're going to be using it that way. You don't have that much range of motion. So you really need to get inside to make this work. And you already need to get inside to make this work. You know, when you're using it like a flail. You do have more reach, yes, but this is still not as long as, say, a sword's going to be. Or, God's forbid, a staff or a spear. If you're going to be up against one of those, well, then you really need to get inside. And that's where the blocking comes in. Now, about catching weapons. I'm going to get into the blocks in a moment, but since I brought up using this that way, and then possibly you can use this to catch a weapon, anyone watching this video right now, I want to ask them, just be honest. You don't have to tell me. Just be honest with yourself. How often have you caught an incoming attack? Be honest. How often have you caught and grabbed and trapped an incoming attack? Like, let's say we're boxing right now, or we're sparring, all right? And we're just playing around. I'm not trying to hurt. We're just sparring. We're just playing around. We're slap boxing, all right? Slap boxing. And I throw my punches, okay? Throw my punches out. Flicking my hands at you, okay? Can be honest. Can you catch these? I mean, I'm sure some guys have really fast reflexes, right? Really fast reflexes, and can catch these punches. But how often have you done this? I've sparred on and off for some time, and my style has a lot of trapping movements in it. I have movements that are designed to, you know, trap the arms and come in, but just grabbing, like a punch coming in, and then you can do that, and, you know, then do stuff to them, or like do this, like that don't happen but in the movies or in demonstrations. Actual sparring matches, hell, we got MMA matches now where it's grappling's all over the place. How often do you see people doing this in the middle of a match? Be honest. Just be honest with yourself. Now, the reason why I asked that, and I think I took way too long in drawing that out, is because now imagine trying to do it with these. You're not even using your fingers now. You're using this. It's already going to be rough enough to try to do it like, let's say a blow is coming in and you're trying to do that. But now let's say you're doing it this way and you're going to be trying to use these to get inside and you're trying to trap, you know, something with the cord. And it's a weapon now. It's no longer just my hand or fist, you know, or my foot coming at you. That's a weapon. And here, let me demonstrate. Here's some footage of myself. And right now, what I am doing is I am just throwing out my sword, just flicking it at you. This, which I'm doing right now, is just basically me just whipping a sword at you. That's it. That's just, now ask yourself, as you're seeing this, as I'm flicking all this at you, how quickly do you think you'd be able to catch this with a rope or chain? How easily? I mean, if you knew the blow was coming in, you probably could, especially with a long length of chain, you could probably throw it over and then pull it away or something. But imagine trying to do that with chucks. Just imagine. I really would like, seriously, how easily do you think these blows or these quick thrusts you'd be able to grab with the chucks? Especially if you're holding them like this. But let's be fair. This isn't a traditional way to hold it, is it? No. This is a traditional way to hold it. Or is it this? Now we get to the main crux of my argument. In the book and in the footage that Fat Dragon showed, this was basically the stance that was used. Because from here, it supposedly is easier to transition into some of the blocks that were shown. Because from here, trying to go into some of those blocks is going to be kind of hard, isn't it? Let's say you're standing like this and you're waiting for an attack, or you already made an attack and this has already gone out and now a blow is coming in. You got a problem. Now you got to try to find a way to flick this back, put this in your hand, and then block whatever's coming at you. Like, this is one of the blocks, by the way, which could be a strike. You could use this as a strike, or it could be a block. It could be a block, right? Boom, coming in, block. And yeah, holding this here, boom, block. Or attack coming up, boom, block. Or attack coming down, boom, block. Or something coming from below. You get the picture, right? This is one of the blocks. Doing it from here and trying to get into that in the middle of a match ain't easy. And you'll see that in a moment. But what about this? Is this any easier? Is it any easier to go from this to that? With some practice? Yeah, I think so. With a little bit of practice, I was starting to get the hang of it. But consistently, and in a fighting match, and now look, here I am, prepared. Now the blow's coming in. Look how much time that took. You know what? Let's let the footage speak for itself. I think I should do that to be fair. Now, before we get into the footage, here's some other footage of me first playing around with a sword. First, bare hand. And this is me and Mo just going through some basic stuff. And I'm doing this just to show you that it's not as, I mean, I'm not saying I'm an expert. Again, I need to stress this. I'm not an expert. But I'm showing this stuff just to give you an idea of my capabilities when it comes to defending myself against incoming attacks. I first wanted to show some barehanded stuff. We're just playing around, really, to be honest. But, you know, just give you an idea that, you know, when it comes to defending against incoming blows, while we're not exactly going at full speed, I mean, I know how to defend myself at least with certain incoming attacks, and especially when it comes to using weapons. And one thing I do notice when it comes to using weapons, the easier the weapon is to use, the more quickly certain motions are going to come out. You know, how much easier it is to come out. Like, here we go now with my sword, and here, just, it's very, very quick, very simple. You know, it's very easy to use, it's very easy to defend myself, you know, with a sword. And this, again, I go just boom, instinctive, quick, you know. To make the timing for this to work, yes, it's going to take some training. But notice that the maneuvers themselves are not that difficult to do. Now let's go into the chucks. And keep in mind that you have to do these traditional blocks, and I'm going to go through basically 3 traditional blocks. The one where you're coming in like this, the one where you are supposed to then switch grips and come off and go down low like that, Really, you're supposed to be like that, but the best I could do, to give you a foreshadowing, is to come off like that. And then finally, the one where you close up and block like that and block like that. You can't see this. Here or low, right? But you got to do it from here, because this is the way the guy was holding it. He wasn't doing it from here. He was doing it from here, which already makes... Okay, the blocks themselves seem to look pretty simple, right? They look pretty, easy to do. The problem is, again, the time it takes to close up and then get in position to stop the blow from coming in. Right away, we got problems. You can see me stumbling, trying to stop the blow. And several times, you're going to notice that even when I successfully am able to quickly get that extra stick in my hand and then raise my hand up to block it, it's still not perfect. Either I do it too late, a split second too late, or my hand, like at one point you'll see my finger get caught in between the 2 sticks, which I'd end up hurting myself. Because remember, the weapon's clashing against the 2 sticks as my pinkies get caught in it. So I'm going to crush my finger. And that's going to cause pain, which is going to distract me, and then whatever. And then there's also times where the weapon hits my hand. Remember, there's no hand guards here. And I'm holding basically 2 short sticks. So I got like very little margin of error here when it comes to defending myself with this. Like, you got the weapon, I'm coming up, here comes the blade, and the blade's coming in, and I'm blocking it, boom. And this is me, again, best case scenario, I'm catching it at the very ends. So I have enough room to maneuver here, and then the blade comes in here. What if it misses? And that's happened a couple of times where the blade came, sometimes I caught it, and I ended up catching it right here more, like closer to the middle. And then here comes the weapon, and boom, right into the fingers. That's happened a couple of times. Or even when, boom, it came here, as I'm trying to transition into something else, all it takes is just change angle and slide the weapon against the length of that and cut, which is a very common traditional move in martial arts, where if you're going up against a polearm or another weapon, and they block or you block, you just ride your blade along their weapon to attack their hand, or ride it across the arm right to the neck and cut. That's very common. With this, you don't even have that much length to go. It's just boom, cut the fingers. And these strokes are too short. Remember, traditionally, they're supposed to be the length. Like, if you're supposed to put the stick against your palm, and it's supposed to reach to your elbow. Here we go. It's not that much, really. Look, here's my forearm. Here's the thing. I got it right against the palm, see? Here's the palm. Here it is. It's not that much shorter than my forearm. So this is not, maybe you can knock an inch off. You can say, like, okay, maybe it needs an inch longer. It's still not going to make that much. 12, 14 inches, that extra inch isn't really going to matter all that much in the long run, considering how big your hands are. And you really need a stick that's more like 17, 18 if you really want to have a good length to defend. And even then, remember, no hand guard. That's a problem right there. Then we have the fact that, again, and I haven't even talked about this. This is already a bad enough transition to try to do quickly in the middle of a fight. And again, this is going to take some practice. I just boom, boom. You gotta like that. Look, I just knocked my key. I just knocked my tea right off the desk there. I'm keeping it going. That's not a blooper reel. Live. It's just, that's not an easy thing to do. Now, imagine now transitioning from this to this for that low block. Because that was one of the traditional ones shown. Remember? From here, and you got an attack coming towards your front leg. It's a low blow. If you're usually going low, it's going for that leg. And by the way, tip, never open up with a low attack. Just saying. I'm not saying anybody did. I'm just saying that, you know, because some people see the low attacks and that's a good attack. Yeah, it's a good attack to do, just not as your first one. Don't do that. You're opening all this up, and you're shortening your range at the same time. So, yeah, it's not good. Yeah, imagine transitioning from here, and you see that attack coming. Now, this already takes time. It doesn't seem to take that much time, but it matters, as you see in the footage. That millisecond of time it takes. Yeah. Now imagine from here, you're trying to go here, change the grip, then invert, and go like that to stop the blow, and also hope that you got this at the right angle so that the blade hits the stick and not your forearm. I hope I don't need to say anything more about how much of a risk that is. Now, I will say this. Doing this and going low, I found that to be... that was a lot easier to go up for some reason for me. Like, from here and then going up, boom. Even this, look at it's uneven. Doing it and going low, I found that to be a little bit easier. I don't know if because gravity was helping or something. But it's still... you better hope you did it fast enough. And then we got these. And this leads me to a general critique I have, and not just on defensive moves for chucks, but just defensive moves, period. I hate hard blocks. This is just me personally spitballing here. But I hate hard blocks. And I should have demonstrated... She's tired. But I should have demonstrated this in... I forgot to do this, but I wanted to show exactly why. And actually, to be fair, we did show a couple of things why you do not want to do an upward hard block like that. You really don't. This leaves you wide open. Wide open. You have to be... If you're going to do this, you better instantly transition into something else. This had better not be your, ha! I stopped you. I hate blocks like that. I know we see it in the traditional arts. You did like barehanded, you see this. I think in chucks there's a motion like that when you block with it. And by the way, this is also pretty bad because once again, remember what happens when you try to block with the stick in your hand, how easy it will be for the blade or stick or whatever they're using against you to hit your hand instead of the freaking... But just the general thing of doing this to stop a blow or doing this to stop a blow or doing that leaves you so wide open. When a guy's coming in from above like that, they got options. Once you do this and you've committed yourself to that block that's coming in from above, what they could do, first of all, they could fake you out. You see the thing coming, you go like that, they just change direction and now all this is, you're dead. Or they'll drop the weapon on you, you block it and you're like, ha, and then they just increase the pressure. Now you're kind of screwed because now the pressure's coming at you. And if you weren't already thinking as the blade or the stick is coming, like as it's touching, you already pivoted to make your attack. If you weren't thinking that until after the attack already came in and now the pressure's coming at you, you're fucked. Because now if you try to move, you're opening yourself up. Even if you pivot, you're still in the way. You should have pivoted as the blow was coming in. Not boom, then pivot. That's not, no. But they could add the pressure, you're stuck like this, and then at any time they can just remove the weapon. And in fact, that's another trick that they like to do. Like, you know, you're holding up here, thing comes in, and then as that touches, it just instantly right under it. Seen it done. I've done it. It's really, I've never liked those moves. And again, once again, you're trying to do it from here. Remember, this is that traditional grip. Here comes that upward attack, and now you're trying to do this. You're trying to... You see the problem? You're trying to go here, and now you're trying to do... You see how my hand has to quickly go across before the thing comes... The point that I'm trying to make here is you need movements that come out quickly, instinctively, and without any problems. That you don't have to make so many freaking micro adjustments in order to make it work. This, too many micro adjustments. That's why I say with a stick, If an attack is coming in and I want to block that way, all I gotta do is this. That's all I need. I don't have to let go, swing in, catch as I'm doing this. Too many steps. Where, let's say I was holding it like this, and now and the attack's coming in. Wouldn't that make more sense? Attack's coming in, lift. Attack's coming in, lift. Which again, this is not perfect because of the length of the stick, and once that comes in, they can just bring the thing down and cut at my hand, and yeah. But that's a lot more efficient than... The only way this makes sense to do is if you're already holding the chucks like this. I know this is a long video. This is much longer than my first one and much longer than my response. But that's the point. When you actually start talking fighting technique, and it's not as simple as, oh, just do this. You got to come up with stuff that's going to be instinctive, that's quick. And here again is some footage showcasing that. This last little bit I did with Mo, I decided to go, let's just go with what works and what feels like it works and see what happens. And if you notice, suddenly I have a lot more options. I'm suddenly able to instinctively attack. Some of the attacks aren't exactly, or counter I should say. Some of them aren't exactly perfect, you know, but I'm not suddenly caught wide open, or I'm not suddenly having to micro adjust. I'm able to just like boom and attack on the fly. And you will notice that some of the attacks I do, yeah, I do use it like a stick. You know, where I jam it into them. Like at some points, I'll like quickly hit with, you know, both sticks, then quickly get inside and jam both sticks into them. Or better yet, I find a way to block and then release the flail, and so I can actually hit them with the flailing motion, which again is the primary reason why this is here in the first place. You got to use its primary function. You know, if you use the weapon the most effectively, it was made to be used like a flail. Take advantage of that. If you're actually using it more like a stick, what was the point of putting the rope there? You might as well just use a stick, which is going to be more versatile, longer, and better to use for the situation you're dealing with than these things. These things, it sort of reminds me of the fighting fan, or the so-called fan that I've seen in Chinese martial arts, where I'll see a whole lot of forums about how to use the fan, and the only ones where the fan is actually used in any practical way is when it's just used like a stick. Doing all those fancy opening and twirls with the fan where it's open and it's spin and all that are usually just done for exhibition. They're not actually, you know, there's only one form I can think of where opening the fan is actually an attack. And there's only one specific use for it. Yeah. That's what using this like a stick reminds me of. Where you're using this in a way that is like, well, if I'm using it like a stick, why don't I just use a stick? And if this is the most efficient, if using it like a stick is the most efficient way to use it, and especially if it's the most efficient way to defend yourself is to just use it like a stick, why don't you just use a stick? What's the point of using chucks that way? Now, the reason why you use chucks is for its specialized function. The flail! It's a specialized weapon that's supposed to be used a certain way. The flail! And here's the biggest thing. I said all that garbage just to lead back to this one point. These are meant to be used offensively, in my opinion, not defensively. You're meant to swing these things. You're meant to come at the guy with them. For one thing, if you're using these against somebody else's weapon, chances are their weapon's going to be longer than yours. Just saying. So that means you need to get inside. Now, if it means finding a way to tangle the weapon, as you see me in the last village, you probably saw me a couple times try to tangle their weapon and try to get in. And I don't know how effective that would actually be because, again, I didn't get to use it at top speed because I didn't want to accidentally hit her skull with this. You know, maybe it might work, but that's a big if. I'd have to, like, get padding on and, like, if I really want to figure out how well that would work, I would have to, like, put a helmet on, or maybe you guys want to do that. Put some padding, put some armor, and go out there and see or get some rubber chucks or something. But yeah, using this like the weapon's coming in, and you can try to whip this, and then the thing wraps around and try to yank it out their hand, and then hopefully untangle this from their weapon to strike. Or if not, then use your foot. Like you'll see, many of the counter movements, you notice I just kicked as I came in. because you gotta. This is a short range weapon, and you're trying to get inside against a longer one. And then you want to just keep on beating them with this when you got this opened up. And that's the main function. Beat them over the head with it. That's what this was made for. Just like a cut and thrust weapon, you're cutting and thrusting. That's what it was made for. A katana, you're using that to cut. That's what it's made for. So that's what you're trying to do against your enemy. A rapier, you're trying to thrust a guy. I know you can cut with a rapier, or more like lacerate, but the main function is a long stabbing weapon. Its primary function is to stab, so that's what you're going to do. All your maneuvers are set up to maneuver to stab the guy. Well, what is this made for? Arguably, to beat them over the head, like, you know, or whatever, as a flailing weapon. Once you take that flailing option away, it's like there's no need for it to be a chuck. It might as well be a stick. Which then goes back to the original statement I made. Why don't you just use a stick? Like, the stick I find to be a more versatile weapon to use. If you're going to use these, they're specialized weapons for specialized use, and in the right hands they can be devastating, but the devastating way to use them is with its function in mind. That's my argument. I could be dead wrong about just about every single last thing I said and demonstrated, but I wanted to show why I think the way I do about these things. Why I, you know, have the thoughts I have about these things. It's not that I think they suck, and it's not that I think, you know, they have no play, they can't be used, you know, properly at all, but I just think that they're a specialized weapon, a specialized offensive weapon that you've got to use a particular way, and defensive options, quite frankly, are limited, but you shouldn't be depending on them anyway. Because your defensive options with these are quite limited and could probably get you in more trouble than it's worth. Again, I could be dead wrong. And if people can show some practical, you know, evidence to the contrary, or show, like, for example, me doing those blocks or whatever, I could have been doing them dead wrong. And somebody could actually show them in lightning fast sparring scenarios, or actually maybe even in real life scenarios where they're suddenly able to do that stuff. Like, you know, just suddenly switch off from the A guard into that. Who knows? I could be dead wrong. I am willing to admit that. But yeah. Oh man, this video has gone on so freaking long, and I really apologize for that. But I hope that, you know, you guys got something out of it. I hope I made my point. I hope I didn't come off as negative, because that's not really the point of the video. It's more to me to, like, talk about this, just to explain why I thought the way I did, and why I still think the way I do about it. Thanks to the New Fat Dragon for bringing the response, because again, it was interesting, and I am glad that they brought some of those moves to my attention. And again, movements that one person might think sucks, somebody else might be able to turn into something really good, like spin moves or spin kicks and stuff like that. Stuff that people thought wasn't viable ended up being viable in the right hands. So, yeah, you never know. Anyway, that's it. I need to start dinner. Catch you guys later.